Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this November 21st, 2016 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can listen to my show every weekday at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Time. And if not, then they play the show at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. And if you can't get it there, go to my long-standing website at arcticbeacon.com, arcticbeacon.com. You can get shows regarding the Vatican-led New World Order going back over a decade. And my show's been called The Alternative to the Alternative Media. One of the reasons is I bring guests on like Leo Zagami, who I have from Rome today. We finally got a good internet connection. And who knows if it was all those earthquakes that were going on. But anyway, Leo's here. And how are you doing today? Are you there?
Yes, doing well, doing great, and with a lot of information coming directly from the Vatican headquarters, where really hell is breaking loose after the Trump era has started even in the Vatican, and the Jubileum, the holy year that the Pope had, as you know, done probably for his own convenience, just ended up, this Jubileum, this holy year where everybody had to pass through this holy door with all these ceremonials and all this stuff, didn't really bring the amount of pilgrims anyway it was supposed to bring. But one thing it bring now at the end of it was a letter of four of the main key cardinals at the moment in the conservative field, and one of them is the Grand Master, or is the patron, sorry, not the Grand Master, but the patron of the Knights of Malta. And the patron of the Knights of Malta is actually Raymond Leo Burke, which is an American cardinal and prelate. What's happening here is very important, Greg, because we have followed the Vatican together for many years. And for the first time now, you have to understand that we have a situation which is unprecedented, because Pope Francis, as you know, openly criticized last February President-elect Donald Trump. And from that point onwards, the relations between Trump and the Vatican have been not really that good, at least on the outside. What has happened in the inside has been that while the Jesuit faction, of course, supported the Democrats, the more conservative factions that is led by Raymond Leo Burke, which is somebody who has been the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of St. Louis in Missouri, who has been the Bishop of the Diocese of La Crosse in Wisconsin, and is also a prominent canon lawyer and a very important figure in the Vatican. Let me tell you, I mean, he is in a key position, not only as a patron of the Sovereign Order of the Knights of Malta, that, as you know, is one of the two main knighthoods in the Vatican, and probably one of the most influential.
I wanted to ask you, Leo, we haven't talked since Trump was elected, but do you think he's in the Knights of Malta?
Well, I know for sure one thing. There is at least one prominent member of the Knights of Malta who has been in contact with me and working directly with Donald Trump. So there has been a constant support through the last few months from certain faction of the Knights of Malta towards supporting Donald Trump against what is really causing the destruction of the church, because what Raymond Leo Burke and these other three cardinals have sent to the Pope is basically a sort of ultimatum, and it's not only an ultimatum, they are asking Francis to make clear certain changes on the canon rule, on the laws of the church that Pope Francis has made, liberalizing the church and making it really far from what it used to be. Now, the important thing you have to understand that only today the Pope has published officially Misericordia et Misera. This is basically a new text by the Vatican that for the first time in history gives the absolution to those who give abortion. So we are here about to witness in the Vatican what I have written now in my latest book here, published in Italy last month, actually 2 months ago, which basically predicted that there would be in 2018 probably a schism. Now, this seems to be a pretty big thing happening, because you see, the Pope is basically giving the absolution to somebody who, you know, we will never imagine that somebody who takes away the life will be actually receive the pardon, the forgiveness from the Vatican. And this really means also probably an open war with the conservative faction. But this is not to do with, I mean, this is happening at the same time, but in the newspapers in Italy, everywhere is the news about Cardinal Raymond Leo Burke and his faction moving basically towards asking the Pope for resignation. So Pope Francis might be forced to resign. This will, of course, confirm what I have written also in my book, The Last Pope, and that he will resign. But he will actually be forced to resign this time, because, you see, this is the faction that has supported Donald Trump. They were, of course, a minority before. They are still a minority in a church which is largely corrupted. But Donald Trump has not only changed the face of politics, it seems. It seems like this time he has also basically changed the face of the church, because his stand on being Christian and, of course, of actually saying to the Pope, why, you know, who are you to judge me because I'm a Christian? Well, this is the first time in history you have to understand that there is a confrontation between the Vatican and the United States of America, and this can't be accepted by the new administration. So, from my information within Vatican walls, it was already highly probable, like I announced on InfoWars over a year ago, that the Pope will resign, but now it's pretty sure that he will be forced to resign because of the Knights of Malta giving him basically this times the thumbs down, saying you have to leave because your policies are not anymore acceptable. I mean, he is transforming the church in a cradle of liberalism. He's trying, of course, not only to promote, as we know, the entrance of immigrants, but he is mingling with Islam and promoting himself, Islam, as an acceptable faith. This is not acceptable any longer in a Christian Europe that wants to retain its roots. At the same time, the EU is falling into disarray since the election of Donald Trump. As you know, the driving figure of the EU and Brussels is Juncker, this politician always drunk from Luxembourg, and basically this politician is highly critical of Donald Trump, Jean-Claude Juncker, and this is not acceptable, of course, for the US. Now, we have talked for many years, me and you, Greg, of the influence that the US and certain politics have had, also the Vatican, no? The secret Gladio alliance stay behind, the P2, everything. We have talked about all this for years. Now we are seeing a confrontation between, it's like a war between gangs here. And the New World Order is actually who's going to control the New World Order is actually really what is the mission of one gang or the other. Now, on one side, we have, of course, what we favor, I think, even yourself. I mean, Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, and basically those who have really given a voice to a lot of people who thought they will not have any more a voice, because this Democratic Party, both in Europe and in America, because in Europe, even in Italy, we have a Democratic Party, or in other countries, we have a reflection of it, like in France, for example, François Hollande, and he's on his way out. And we
well, also, Leo, what about Renzi? Sarkozy. What about Renzi in your country?
Well, the latest information, just to close down on France, Sarkozy has been booed out, so it's highly possible that really Le Pen has a chance. Another thing very important that maybe your listeners need to know is that the Le Pen family is very close friend of Donald Trump. So France really seems to be a real possibility that the Le Pen family and Marine Le Pen and the other, everybody will have a role in this. The Front National will have a real role in French politics. At the same time, Matteo Renzi is really on the losing part of the political arena. I tell you one thing, he has tried desperately to jump on the Trump bandwagon, but he was the one who actually criticized officially Trump and supported, he was the only head of state in Europe to openly support Hillary Clinton. Mm. So it was not, you see, while it was really funny to see because, of course, you know how corrupt the media are, especially here in Europe and especially here in Italy. It was very funny to see all those people from the foreign press, one day all pro-Clinton, and the next day starting to not be so sure anymore, still a little bit criticizing Trump, but by the third day, they were kind of aligning themselves. And still there is, of course, the liberal media, the communistic left-wing media, which is openly criticizing Trump every now and then, or at least questioning, like they want to put, some kind of doubt in the listener or in the viewer. But this whole thing, really, this election has demonstrated that the traditional media doesn't have a grasp anymore on people, as you see. The New World Order is failing to understand the future of communication, at least the New World Order that was led by George Soros, because that who is leading the whole thing is George Soros, is Jacob de Rothschild. And of course, there is also Rockefeller. These people have supported Matteo Renzi. Matteo Renzi has gone to the US for a state visit with Obama, probably one of the last main events for Obama in his administration. And he openly supported this referendum that is happening in Italy on the 4th of December, which Matteo Renzi is pushing for the yes. Why is he pushing for the yes? Because the yes vote at this referendum in Italy means basically losing the remains of the sovereignty, which are the little sovereignty which is left to our country. As you know, we can't print anymore our own currency, but that doesn't mean that we can't retain at least a little bit of sovereignty, in respect to Brussels. Now, if you actually follow what Matteo Renzi is pushing in this referendum, and if you vote yes, they will change the constitution. The people will lose any possibility of, the Senate of Italy will not have a say anymore because they will not be elected by the people anymore. And at the same time, the whole system will change in such a way that basically corrupt people, governors of regions which are completely mafiosi, will have access to the government and probably even a place in the Senate. And then we will have all sorts of rules that basically limit the sovereignty of Italians respect to Europe. So a lot of this is happening because the European Union, George Soros, the Club Bilderberg, the Vatican Jesuits have pushed for, of course, this European Union for many years, for many decades. The European Union was initially shaped, as we know, with the help of the CIA, of the US State Department, of course, and of course of some very serious Republicans. But gradually, in the last, let's say, since the P2 scandal, dear Greg, and you know very well what the P2 scandal was here in Italy. And
yes, go ahead.
They have Freemasonry fell gradually in the hands of the left wing. Now, the Grand Master Immagine of the Grand Orient of Italy is actually supporting Matteo Renzi openly and supporting the yes vote. This means that there is, and this is of course bringing back some reminiscence of 100 years ago when Freemasonry split in two here in Italy, in a more conservative faction that was Piazza del Gesù and the other faction which is the Grand Orient of Italy. Now that faction, as you know, gave birth later on after the war and after after it reawakened what used to be already a lodge, which was the P2, and put it in the hands of Licio Gelli. That meant Licio Gelli was a fascist, was a right wing, was connected to the Gladio state behind operations, and they were all traditionally right-wing. You remember that? I mean, you were in Italy, so you remember what kind. Now, vice versa, the whole thing has turned left-wing. So basically, even the Gladio, that used to be, these big defenders against communism, against, any form of libero behavior, now they have been corrupted, and they are the ones who are actually supporting Matteo Renzi. But Matteo Renzi will lose on the 4th of December. Already the polls, and I mean, we know how polls are not really credible, especially after the U.S. election, are demonstrating that polls are not completely a fraud and a scam. But in this case, even the most fraudulent poll is still saying that the no vote, which is opposing Matteo Renzi's yes vote, is winning by 8%. That means it's winning at least by 30%. So I think that now Matteo Renzi is starting to back off a little bit from assimilating these two things, the no vote with his resignation, but he is actually announcing that he might not want to continue as Prime Minister after the 4th of December. I think that in the end, what will happen will be that the Jesuits, the Vatican, that has put there Matteo Renzi, because Matteo Renzi is a follower of the Jesuits. Imagine that every summer he goes to the Jesuits and recites the exercises of Ignazio Loyola with a Jesuit priest who lives there in Sardinia, and he goes there with his wife. So I mean, here we're talking about a real Jesuit agent. And I think that after this election, after this referendum, which is a little bit like an election for Italy, Matteo Renzi will lose, and maybe he will not resign. At that point, though, Greg, that point, it seems that Trump is preparing something behind closed doors. It seems that a few people are moving, and I think that they might mobilitate, block Italy completely, and at that point ask him to resign, forcing him to resign. And it will be the people asking him in the streets. Italy will be there will be blockades of all kinds. I think that the chaos will erupt if he doesn't resign after the 4th of December and after he loses this referendum.
Now, do you think that Italy could ever get out of the EU and go back to the lira?
Now, Angela Merkel has clearly said, if Matteo Renzi loses and if the no vote prevails, Italy is out of the EU currency and out of the euro. Because at that point, also everything that is in this referendum talking about voting, working rights and stuff changes. I mean, here you have to understand, here they want to transform Italy in a kind of China, where working rights are inexistent and where people will, you know how people are paid now in Italy? They're not paid with money anymore in a lot of companies. You know how they're paid, Greg?
No.
They're paid with these pieces of paper, which are called, they are like, let's say they're not currency, they're just a thing you can spend at the supermarket and buy food.
No, like I think they're called vouchers.
Yes, vouchers, sorry. Sorry, my ignorance. Vouchers in English is the same as Italy, because even in Italian they are called vouchers in a way.
Okay.
But yes, these vouchers basically implicate that there is no circulation of cash, and also that you can completely fraud the tax system with using these vouchers. But at the same time, also, it's a prevarication on the freedom of person, who works for 1 month, and then in the end of the month he gets 500 or 1,000 euros of vouchers. What is he going to buy if he needs something that is not in the supermarket, which is basically written on the voucher, or because these vouchers are not accepted by every shop in Italy.
Right.
So, I mean, it's really like, it's a bit like a form of slavery. Mm-hmm. They're paying people 500 euros of vouchers, and these people are simply capable to go to the supermarket and buying the food to get to the following month.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, so it's a form of slavery, financial slavery.
Yeah. And they can't even pay the rent with a voucher. So, I mean, it creates really a very big sacks of poverty. Even this voucher business that Renzi has been promoting in his Jobs Act, and that basically is a form of slavery. We are talking here about really treating people like animals and not giving them I think they're really taking from people their dignity. And this is really something that we knew already 10 years ago when we started this adventure together with my revelations on your shows on the Arctic Beacon, that will happen eventually. But to actually see it coming into fruition, it's really sad. So we hope now all these politicians in Italy who are all backed up by George Soros, we need to remove them. But also I think that Donald Trump, of course, he's, as you know, an isolationist. He wants isolation. He wants to protect the interests of the United States of America. But there can't be a United States, safe and stable United States of America without a safe and stable Europe. So, of course, I hope that Trump and his people and his staff, General Flint, Giorgio Lombardi, which is in very close connection with Italy, and has high chances to become even probably the ambassador in Rome. I mean, I think that these people need to focus on how getting now rid of all these people who are basically a creation of the Clinton Foundation. Because all the politicians in Europe that have brought all these new rules, these laws, these liberalism, this left-wing rubbish, and especially they have brought the falsity, because you see, Hillary Clinton has lost, the Brexit also has demonstrated, like probably the loss of the referendum in Italy will demonstrate, is just that demonstrates that all these promises that even these VIPs do on TV, like it happened in America, people are not fooled anymore by them. You can't go, you can't earn millions, pay your taxes in another country, like some of the key industrialists do in Italy or in America, and basically have a say in the politics of a country where they don't even pay taxes.
Right.
I mean, it's ridiculous. So, if you have, like Trump has demonstrated with his takeover, and now he's demonstrating with his politics, that people like Apple will have to bring back the jobs in the U.S. if they want to continue working. And this will have to happen with a lot of other companies. And this is a great thing. While instead, here in Italy, we had a group of people who backed Matteo Renzi, people, very powerful people, who wanted to remove, and who, of course, in league with the EU, with the Club Bilderberg, operated a coup against Berlusconi in 2011, removed Berlusconi. Then they started with the Mario Monti Bilderberg era, because Mario Monti is a member of the actual guiding the presidency that rules the Club Bilderberg, and also a key member of the Trilateral. These people then from there on have taken over Italy, and gradually then after him there was another guy called Letta, and then they placed Matteo Renzi. But Matteo Renzi is of course a puppet, and I think that he's expendable, and I think that after this 4th of December we will probably see his removal. But in Europe, what does this mean in the long run?
Leo, hold that thought, because we have to take a break. And we'll pick it up right there. I'm with Leo Zagami from Rome. We're going over the ramifications of the Trump selection, as well as what's happening in the Vatican because of it. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet. or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, we are back for this second half hour of the Investigative Journal. My guest is Leo Zagami from Rome. And Leo, we were talking in the first half hour regarding the Pope maybe being squeezed out or asked to resign. What if he says no? You know how the Jesuits are. What if they start doing some things to these, like assassinations of some of these cardinals that are against them?
Well, first of all, I think the guy who they will try to assassinate is Donald Trump, not anybody else, because he seems to be the root of the problem for these people. You have to understand how closely the Jesuits were monitoring and participating to the campaign. You know who the vice president appointed by Hillary Clinton was.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think that anybody can neglect the fact that there is a close participation of the Jesuits in American politics, and this is scandalous in any way. But think the whole thing with Hillary Clinton, and then later on also the other thing with Hillary Clinton, because on one side we have the lobbying that Hillary was doing within the Vatican, also promoting certain liberal groups of priests and stuff, no?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have also on the other side John Podesta going to satanic dinners with Marina Abramovich, and then being connected, as we were speaking in private earlier, even with the Pizzagate, and probably with a bunch of pedophiles and pedophile rings. Now, all this is unacceptable, and I'm glad that the American people have done this great decision. But now we are stuck in Europe with everything that was placed in by Obama and by the Jesuits. So will the Jesuits accept the resignation of Pope Francis? The thing is that the Jesuits have a few cards to play, but even the CIA and the new Trump administrations have a few cards to play within the Vatican administration. Actually, Trump could even use the card of the Masonic charters that have been given to the Vatican by the Americans just after the Second World War, and which are the official, let's say, charters and patents that are used to conduct Masonic work in the Vatican to his own benefit, pushing out or creating a war between the conservative traditional faction. Because let's remember one thing about Raymond Leo Burke, which has a second name, a name like mine, Leo, which is very significant, but at the same time, he's a very conservative character. He is a guy who does his Mass in Latin. He's a guy who doesn't want compromises. All this liberal stuff brought in by the Jesuits, he will actually scrap it up. Let's say that the Vatican is actually reflecting a little bit what is happening at the White House.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I found it interesting that one of the reasons Trump got elected was because of his conservative view on abortion and wanting to put in Supreme Court justices that really support getting rid of abortions, things like that, standing up for the right to life. Then automatically, right after that, the Pope comes out and says to the American people, now even before only bishops maybe had the right to do what he says to pardon people from abortions and say it's not a sin any longer, we forgive you. But now he's given that power to every parish priest in America. And it's almost as if he opposes Trump, don't you? And the people.
Well, no. I mean, he is the political enemy of Trump. He is now the main representative in the Western world of communist left-winger attitude. I mean, he's a communist, Greg. It's obviously that it's so obvious that he's a communist. And I mean, I have made dozens of shows of things on the internet, articles to demonstrate, even on InfoWars. There's a bunch of articles I've written between last year and this. I mean, there was a lot of material which I given to InfoWars also, which attacked and demonstrated that the Pope is a communist, and at the same time that Hillary was involved with him, and also that the Islamists are involved. Because this is a big thing also for Fethullah Gulen. You see, Fethullah Gulen now is going to be extradited and brought in Turkey to face possibly with the Trump administration a death sentence by Erdogan. This is unheard of, of course, because before we have to understand that Hillary and Bill brought in this Muslim cleric that you know very well, Fethullah Gulen, and protected by the Jesuits, who actually with Thomas Michel kind of even worked in the background to prepare this coup d'etat that last summer failed. So, I mean, well,
you're going to see something happen because. There was the MSNBC just recently when Trump announced that General Flynn was going to be part of his cabinet. MSNBC came on the air and stated that you have to understand, this is what they were trying to say that General Flynn was totally off base when he said that Fethullah Gulen was a radical Muslim and should be extradited. And they ran this whole campaign saying that Fethullah Gulen was a good man, and look how evil the Trump administration is to Muslims. It's an incredible thing. I think he's going to be back in Turkey, don't you?
I think that the first, you see, he's protected by the Clintons, but the moment, also there's another thing, that the Fethullah Gulen movement has actively not only promoted Hillary's election, but they sponsored it with money. So I think that there is no reason for now stopping Donald Trump to actually extradite Fethullah Gulen in Turkey. So this is a great, this is of course something that has happened, first of all, because Erdogan was capable of staying into power. And that happened because of President Vladimir Putin that helped him, as you know, in that terrible night, so the coup. And then after now, we have, of course, the new president-elect, which will probably strike a deal with Vladimir Putin and Erdogan. And at that point, they will eliminate Fethullah Gulen and his organization from the face of the earth, because it is a fundamentalist organization, because it's actually only on the surface a tolerant and peace-loving organization that is just promoting Islam through schools and so on. Those schools have been used for intelligence gathering. Those schools have been... Now there is an article from the New Yorker. I don't know if you read it.
No, go ahead.
It came out like 10 days ago, I think 10 days ago. This article, it's very long. It's something like, I don't know how many pages. It's a very long article, you know, the New Yorker kind of style. It's a very deep analysis about how the Fethullah Gulen movement operates. And they have actually found that there is at least 7 layers of this organization, and that the first 3 layers do covert operations and the work which is completely not the work of a religious organization, but is actually the work of a destabilizing force which uses intelligence gathering, uses any possible, even murder to get to their point. So I think that Fethullah Gulen's position is really a bad position. I wouldn't like to be in his position. But I can say also another thing, that the only way they can let him out is actually to fake his murder, to fake his death.
Right.
Or because faking his death, they will not be able to get him anymore. But will Donald actually fall into this trap? I hope not. I hope that he actually gets this thing sorted. I hope that General Flynn doesn't have... I hope that the CIA doesn't have any kind of state protection over this individual that we maybe will not be able to lift even in a democratic way with Donald Trump and his administration. You understand? If there is something that maybe is so sordid, because we have to understand, Fethullah Gulen has worked as a CIA agent. He might know a lot of secrets that the U.S. doesn't want people to know. So either they kill him, either they pretend he's dead, or either they send him, but if they send him then at that point to Turkey, it becomes a very dangerous situation. So, we have to see. I think that Donald Trump should make the right decision. He should scrap everything that Clapper, that idiot who, of course, resigned a couple of days ago from the intelligence. As you know, Clapper was a Jesuit agent.
Right. Go ahead.
And so we're very happy about the fact he resigned. The Clapper was the devil incarnate. This guy didn't want Snowden to ever come back to the U.S. He's a Satanist. He's a complete dominating force of the intelligence for the last few years. And I think that without him, the protection of Fethullah Gulen goes out of the window. And so I think that he will probably be extradited. Erdogan might give an example of strong leadership by getting him killed, because that's what he said he will do. He said he will install the death penalty for Fethullah Gulen, and he wants to have him killed. So that will give a strong signal of what new politics means. I know that people will be horrified. Oh, people get killed. Or, you have the usual liberal kind, oh my God, it's so terrible. This Erdogan is so undemocratic. Listen, the thing is, that the way the liberals have conducted their agenda, together with the Jesuits, together with this New World Order, has only been at the advantage of people like George Soros, Jacob de Rothschild, Rockefeller, who even lives in Italy. A few weeks ago, they caught him grabbing a pizza in Palermo, and he actually lives most of the time in Tuscany now.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he lives in Tuscany, which, as you know, is the place where the birthplace of Matteo Renzi, and he's basically in league with Matteo Renzi. So you have to understand, Italy seems only one small country, of course, as you know, but you know that because the Vatican resides here, it has a lot of power, also in the stability of this geopolitical situation.
Exactly.
So I think in the old days, in the Cold War days, Italian politicians used to be the ones always in the diplomatic front when it came in the relations between East and West, between Russia and the U.S. They were always in first line. You remember Andreotti?
Exactly.
You remember Gelli's key role. You remember, of course, all the other people like Cossiga and all the other important politicians. And you remember how much more statesmanship was required to also have those roles. It wasn't like a guy like Matteo Renzi, who is an idiot who watches his Facebook on the phone and plays with his smartphone because he's fundamentally an idiot. Here we're talking about people like Andreotti who had behind him basically Cosa Nostra, the mafia, the mob. They had a lot of power, and they were using it in a way, you know it, Greg, because you were actually there to see it, in a way that was sometimes brutal to eliminate the enemy.
Exactly.
So
what's the mafia's role now in Italy? Is it more underground? You don't hear much anymore.
You don't hear him because they struck a deal with Renzi's administration. They struck a deal which is a really sad, but I think people and listeners out there need to know this. Basically, Matteo Renzi, what does he do? Officially, he gets these families in Calabria, in Sicily, wherever, to be persecuted, and their, all their houses, money, stuff gets confiscated. So they give the public a great news, we are destroying the mafia. But secretly, they have actually instituted the biggest fraud in history by having a lottery, which is of course rigged, in which the key tickets go directly to those mafia heads who get all the money they lost every time the police go and confiscate the hundreds of millions of stuff they own.
Oh boy.
So for example, if I'm a mafia boss, and the police comes and takes 50 million, 100 million of my stuff, and it goes on the news, it makes a great propaganda for idiot Renzi, who can say, I'm fighting the mob, I'm a great guy, ooh, yeah. And Alfano, who is his Minister of the Interior, who is actually connected to the mob and who has arranged the whole scam. And at that point, what happened? Okay, this week in Calabria, they have won 180 million at the lottery. Oh, it's great. In a little place, in a little town like Bilbo Valencia. Or the week after, they have won 50 million in Sicily, in a little town where a little old man won 50 million. Now, this is a fraud that needs to end. These people need to get arrested, and we need to have a new Nuremberg. You remember Nuremberg?
And the little old man in Sicily gives the money to the mob boss.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's just, the usual front. But we need to stop all this.
Hey, I was going to ask you, what was the reaction of Trump getting elected to the Italian people? Was it mixed?
Okay. I ended up in the newspapers, Greg.
Okay.
I ended up in the newspapers because Italians for Trump and my support for Donald Trump was it was one of the few voices in the whole of Italy. And I supported Donald since even before we created this Italians for Trump thing. For the last year, I've been doing videos, interviews with Alex, and other things. And so basically, the actual Trump administration is in contact with Italians for Trump, and they have recognized my support. So I ended up in the main Italian newspaper, Fatto Quotidiano, as one of the few intellectuals who have actually supported Donald Trump. And it was quite crazy, Greg, because I went last week to Rome, next to the parliament. There is a place called Galleria Sordi. It didn't exist at the time you were there because Alberto Sordi is a famous actor, but they dedicated a gallery which goes out of the parliament from Via Condotti. Mm-hmm. And there's a very exclusive place where all the politicians hang out for a coffee and so on. I was invited there by the other two members of Italians for Trump, which one of them is a very famous politician called Gian Mario Ferramonti, who hasn't been into politics for many years, but he has been one of the co-founders of the Northern League. He was actually involved in the foundation of Forza Italia with Berlusconi, and together with him, I created this Italians for Trump project a few months ago. I think it was around April, but I was already doing it. So he said, why don't you jump on board and we all do it together? And now when I went there, all the Italian politicians were kind of like people that I never met, Greg, were coming to me. Oh, Dr. Zagami, please meeting you. I heard of the great success. Because they know that Gian Mario Feramonti has met personally Donald Trump in 1986, and he has a very good relationship with George Lombardi, with the Trump administration. And so Italians for Trump is not, and actually I was invited by NAFTA and by the Italians in Washington last month to actually have a dinner with Donald Trump. So, I mean, we Italians for Trump are actually an organization which exists and now is being recognized public. I will also send you the article maybe later on.
Yeah, do so that. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
You can have a look at it. But basically, it was great because nobody believed in us. Imagine this. They had the vice president of the Academy of the Illuminati, called Pier Giorgio Bassi, in the month of June 2016, met with actually a guy, because in Italians for Trump we have also a key member of the Knights of Malta who is working with Cardinal Burke. And he met with Pier Giorgio Bassi, who is, as I told you many years ago, with Giuliano Di Bernardo, a tool of the Jesuits. And they met, in a typical kind of elite dinner in Rome in the evening, in the parliament. And when he said, oh, well, we, together with Leo Zagami, are supporting Donald Trump. And this guy just started laughing. He said, what losers? What losers? Said he said, ooh, well, you're not going to go anywhere. We are all with Hillary, and we know she's going to get elected. So this was the position of the Jesuits and their own Illuminati, while instead my faction of the Illuminati, the Ordo Illuminatorum Universalis, which in Italy is also a political association. You see, I have actually not only an order, Masonic order, Greg, but I have a political association in Italy, which is recognized by law. I even have, I'm going to send you a photo of it. I even pay tax returns with Ordo Illuminatorum written on, which is quite incredible. And so my legitimate, because also, you remember, after the Legion Selmi in Italy, after the scandal P2, you cannot have secret associations which are not registered by law. So mine, both my Masonic order and my Illuminati are recorded with the state law and everything. And because we are a political association, we do also politics. And this is, and we openly supported, we were the first ones in Italy to openly support Donald Trump in every single public gathering we did. Of course, most of our meetings are private, but we did an official gathering even in the center of Florence in a very important building, because it's owned by the army, and it's actually for the it's for the veterans. It's the veterans building in Florence. And I did the pro-Trump gathering there with a lot of success, and nobody really in Italy took me seriously. They all laugh at me, Greg. They all laugh at me. But now, when I go to Rome, they are following me and they are chasing me, journalists, politicians, saying, oh, Leo Zagami. And I just tell them, fuck off. Because they have not understood, Greg, that Trump means a real change. This is not about jumping on the bandwagon. This is about real change. And I hope they get it, because this real change will mean also for Matteo Renzi the end of his political career.
And we got about 3 minutes. I wanted to get back to the Vatican in the end here where we started. So you have the left and the right. You have the conservative and the Jesuit liberal sections fighting now. In the end, who's going to become victorious, or is the church just going to split apart?
Pier Giorgio Bassi, who is from the other side, as we just said, predicted, actually in a newspaper in Italy, that this will bring to a schism in 2018. I think this could highly be possible. But at the same time, let's remember that Donald Trump, it's not only a change for politics, it's also a change for the church. And this voice that a lot of people have called populism, that a lot of people have called, ignorant, is giving a voice instead to people who didn't have, as I said at the beginning of the show, a voice anymore. People who really believe, they didn't believe anymore in politics because everything is corrupt. I think that it's not a coincidence that we are living this end-time scenario, because this is an end-time scenario. On the 26th of October, a team from the University of Athens moved the marble on top of the tomb of Jesus in Jerusalem. Very strange things happened since then in the Holy Sepulchre. Very strange things. Smell of flowers, magnetical effect things. Something is happening. They have done this for the first time in history. So I think that this end-time scenario will have a lot of things happening that even the most imaginary conspiracy theories could never have envisioned.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years. That's for sure. You know something, I wanted to ask you, the Vatican, I only have a minute, so let's do an interview next week. But is the Vatican very active in talking about our foreign policy regarding Iran and Israel? What's the Pope saying about that?
I predicted this on Pope Francis' last Pope question mark, and I continue to think that this is where they all want to go for the beginning of the end. The 100 years of the apparition of Fatima is about to happen next May 2017. So, coinciding with that, there might be a terrorist attack on the Vatican of unprecedented proportions. It was Liak Shah. You remember Liak Shah? Mm-hmm. Who attempted to...
We've got about 20 seconds, so wrap it up and then we'll come back next Monday.
Well, he predicted there will be an amazing terrorist attack. But of course, the Pope will not be in Rome that day. He will be in Fatima. Mm-hmm. So that's how it is.
Okay, hey, listen, Leo, it's been good talking to you. Let's get together next week and, talk more about that, okay?
Okay, that's great. And say hello to all your listeners, and God bless America.
Okay, Leo, that's Leo Zagami. Thanks, Leo. We'll see you tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie, with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character, as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.